The Florida Joint Center for Citizenship presents Comparing the U.S. and Florida Constitutions, the Amendment Process. Did you know that the U.S. Constitution and the Florida Constitution can be changed or amended? Yeah, that's right. When the framers wrote the U.S. Constitution, they realized it would be beneficial to include an amendment process. Since many states modeled their constitutions after the U.S. Constitution, they also have processes in place for amending their governing documents. In this video, we will compare the amendment process of the U.S. Constitution and the Florida Constitution. After watching this video, you will be able to 1. Compare the amendment process of the U.S. and Florida Constitutions. Let's get started. While both the U.S. and Florida Constitutions can be changed, the ways in which they are amended are very different. Let's begin with the amendment process for the U.S. Constitution. For the U.S. Constitution, an amendment must first be proposed, and then the states must agree to ratify or formally approve it in order for it to be added to the Constitution. There are two different ways an amendment to the U.S. Constitution can be proposed. 1. 2/3 of the members of each House of Congress can propose an amendment, or 2. A convention called by 2/3 of the states can be used to propose an amendment. If either of these two options is successful, the proposed amendment is sent to the states for ratification. There are two ways an amendment to the U.S. Constitution can be ratified or formally approved. 1. 3/4 of the state legislatures can vote to ratify the amendment, or 2. Conventions vote to ratify the amendment in 3/4 of the states. Let's check in. Who is involved in the U.S. Constitution amendment process? Answer: Congress and the states. Let's recap what we've learned so far. The U.S. Constitution has an amendment process. Congress and the states are involved in proposing and ratifying amendments. 2/3 is the magic number needed to propose an amendment by both houses of Congress or states requesting a convention. 3/4 is the magic number needed to ratify an amendment by state legislatures or state conventions. Now that we know the process of amending the U.S. Constitution, let's take a look at the amendment process for the Florida Constitution. In Florida, the amendment process is very different. While the process to amend the U.S. Constitution involves Congress and the states, in Florida, the voters must agree to amend the Florida Constitution. Amendments are included on Election Day ballots. Voters vote yes or no to proposed amendments. An amendment can only be added to the Florida Constitution if 60% or more of the voters vote yes. In other words, Florida's voters ratify amendments to its Constitution. So, how does an amendment get on an Election Day ballot? Well, there are actually 5 different ways amendments are proposed in Florida. The first method is through the Constitutional Revision Commission. Every 20 years, this commission meets and proposes amendments to the state constitution. The second method, also a commission, is the Taxation and Budget Reform Commission. It meets every 20 years to propose amendments, and this group will meet again in 2027. The third method is through a constitutional convention. A certain percentage of registered voters can call for a constitutional convention. At this meeting, amendments are proposed. The fourth method is the ballot initiative process. A certain percentage of registered voters can sign a petition proposing that an amendment be placed on a future Election Day ballot. Finally, 60% or 3/5 of each house of the Florida legislature can pass a joint resolution or decision proposing that an amendment be placed on a future ballot. Let's check in. How are amendments to the Florida Constitution ratified? Answer: Amendments are included on Election Day ballots. Voters vote yes or no to proposed amendments. An amendment can only be added to the Florida Constitution if 60% of the voters vote yes. Let's recap what we've learned so far. The Florida Constitution allows 5 methods to propose amendments. It is the people of Florida who ratify or approve amendments to its Constitution. For an amendment to be included in the Florida Constitution, 60% of Floridians must vote yes. Thanks for watching. This video produced for instructional purposes by the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship. Video produced and edited by the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship staff.